the benefits of tax reform go to the middle class.
The loss of middle-class income.
Middle-class tax cut.
The middle class hasn't had a raise.
There is no middle class anymore. The middle class is gone.
The middle class is gone.
The world has never been richer than it is today, yet the middle class, the group that built modern economies, is quietly shrinking. Here is a shocking part. In the United States, around 61% of people were considered middle class in 1971. Today that number has fallen to about 51%, and it's not just America. Research discussed by the World Economic Forum shows the middle class has shrunk in most European countries over the past 15 years. And even in parts of Asia, the growth has suddenly stopped after the pandemic.
Excuse me, statistically speaking, if everyone is richer, why does my wallet still look emotionally unemployed?
So what's actually happening? Most people assume the middle class is disappearing because families are getting poorer. But new studies say something completely different. Millions of people didn't fall out of the middle class, they actually moved up into the upper middle class. In fact, one recent report found the share of upper middle class families in the United States jumped from about 10% in 1979 to more than 30% today. That sounds like good news, but it creates a much more unstable world where the middle becomes smaller and society becomes more divided. So here is the real question. If people are earning more than before, why does it feel like the middle class is disappearing anyway? Before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe and share this video because it helps our community of smart and curious people to grow. Here is the part most people don't realize. Incomes are rising in many countries, but the cost of living is rising much faster in the things that matter most: housing, education, even healthcare.
For example, in the United States, median family income has increased over the past few decades, but the share of income spent on housing and medical costs has grown dramatically. In many major cities around the world, buying a home now costs 5 to 10 times the average annual salary, something that was far more affordable for previous generations. Tuition fees have also exploded, and healthcare costs continue to rise almost every year. Middle-class families can work full-time, earn more than their parents did, and still feel like they're falling behind. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because everything around them has become more expensive at the same time. And this isn't just an American problem. Across Europe and Asia, middle-class life used to mean stability. Today, it means uncertainty. Even people earning more money than before often feel less financially safe than their parents did.
The middle class isn't collapsing overnight. It's slowly being squeezed from both sides. The thing is that the middle class isn't only shrinking because people are getting poorer. In many cases, it's shrinking because millions of families are actually moving up into the upper middle class.
A 2026 report published by the American Enterprise Institute found something surprising. In 1979, only about 10% of families were considered upper middle class. Today, that number is more than 30%. At the same time, the share of families in the core middle class fell from around 36% to about 31%. At first, this sounds like great news. More people earning more money should mean a stronger society. But the reality is more complicated. Instead of a wide, stable middle class holding everything together, the structure of society is changing. The middle is becoming smaller, while the gap between high-income earners and everyone else is getting wider. This creates a world where success feels more extreme. Some families are moving higher than ever before, while many others feel stuck and left behind. And when the middle becomes smaller, society becomes less stable and more divided.
The middle class isn't disappearing because people are falling, it's disappearing because the entire economic structure is changing. Now zoom out even further, because what's happening right now is not a small economic change. It's a global shift that is still unfolding in real time.
Research discussed by the World Economic Forum shows that in Europe, the middle class has been shrinking in most countries for more than a decade. The main reason is not just low wages, but a combination of slower economic growth, rising housing costs, and the disappearance of stable middle-income jobs. Many of the jobs that once supported a comfortable middle-class life have either been automated or replaced by lower-paid service jobs. In Asia, the story is different, but the result is the same. The middle class grew rapidly for years, especially in countries like China and Indonesia. But after the pandemic, that growth suddenly slowed. According to a recent article published by MarketWatch, Chinese middle-class families are now saving more money than ever. Not because they don't earn enough, but because they feel uncertain about property prices, job stability, and the future of the economy.
This is how the change is happening right now, slowly, quietly, and across multiple continents at the same time. The middle class isn't disappearing in one country, it's disappearing globally. The middle class has always been backbone of stable societies. When it grows, countries become more democratic, more peaceful and more prosperous. A strong middle class supports education, civic participation, and of course economic growth. It creates a society where most people feel invested in the system, but when it shrinks, the consequences are serious.
Research from the European Council on Foreign Relations shows that in countries where the middle class has declined, support for extremist political movements rises. In France, Germany and Italy, regions with the fastest middle-class erosion have seen growing backing for radical parties, both left and right. The same trend appears in Eastern Europe, where declining economic security has fueled polarization. Social division follows economic stress. Communities where middle-income jobs vanish often experience rising inequality, reduced social mobility, and more protests or civil unrest. Economically, nations lose resilience. Households cut spending, savings rise, and consumer-driven growth slows.
History is clear. The middle class isn't just an economic category, it's a society's stabilizer. When it disappears, something always replaces it, and it's rarely peaceful. Countries that fall to protect their middle class risk not only economic instability, but political upheaval. So, is the middle class really doomed? The short answer, not entirely. It's transforming. We are moving away from the world where most people lived comfortably in the middle to a world where wealth is increasingly concentrated at the top. Incomes may rise for some, but the distribution is changing and the core middle is shrinking. Economists now talk about a concept called middle outgrowth. Instead of relying on the very rich to drive the economy, the idea is simple. Societies grow faster when the middle class grows first. Strong middle-income households spend more, invest more in education, and drive innovation. In other words, a healthy middle class isn't just nice to have, it's the engine of modern economies. The reality is stark. The middle class didn't just build modern economies, it built modern society itself. Without it, the world we grew up in, with opportunity, stability and progress, could look very different in the coming decades. So, here is a question for you. If the middle class continues to shrink, what kind of world do you think we inherit? Comment below and share your personal thoughts. And before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe and share this video so you won't miss what's next. The next one is already brewing. Stay tuned.